was trying to be cute without my glasses, but I can't see anything, so here we go.
You're cute in your glasses.
Oh my God, these are all my girls. So I have met some incredible women over the last 2 days. I'm so excited to see you all again. I am very excited to be a part of this I Am Not Worthy. But to anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Stephanie Montes. I am a fashion and beauty editor and also the founder of New, which is a body positive, skin tone inclusive breast tape and nipple covers. We've sold out at Revolve 29 times. Had to throw that out there. Pamela Anderson's a fan. Vogue called us one of the new brands changing the bra space. So anyway, I had to throw that plug in out there. I am joined by some seriously incredible and insanely impressive women. Like I said, I am not worthy, but I'm going to try. So I'm gonna have you each introduce yourselves, and we're gonna start with an icebreaker. So if you could tell me what your family thinks you do all day. Because as a beauty editor, my family thinks I get facials all day, which is sometimes true. But you know, there's so much that goes on in the background that they don't know. So we'd like to know who you are, what you do, and what your family thinks you do.
All right, so hello everyone. So nice to be joining you guys. I can't wait to be schooled in beauty by all of you. My name is Winnie Park. I'm the CEO of Forever 21. And it depends on who you ask. Apparently with my daughter, she thinks I'm available 24/7 all day long. The girl is 18 and she's like, hello, what are you doing? She'll text me. I'm like, I'm at work. She's like, can you please let me know if I can buy this? So apparently I'm her secretary. Okay. Yes, okay. And bank account.
And P.S. that'll never stop. I'm 34. I text my mom all day and I call her 5 times a day. So get ready.
It's a love language.
It really is.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Green. I'm the VP for Beauty and Salon at JCPenney's. I swear I pay all these people. But what I think what my family, you know, all my kids are old. My oldest is 30. I have a 24-year-old son that goes to Keck Medical School at USC right now. And then I also have a daughter that's going to be 21. So, but when I was, I think when they were younger, they thought I worked behind the counter all day. So I started behind the counter, kind of worked my way up. But even though I progressed and got promoted, they still thought I worked behind the counter. So I think it's still very cute.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanah Zeffiro Beaumont. I am the head of growth verticals at a company called Super Awesome. And what we do is help brands integrate into top gaming platforms. So think Roblox and Fortnite, working all day with Gen Z and Gen Alpha and educating brands on ways to integrate into these emerging gaming platforms that are really defining trends and really defining the future of what retail will be, what interaction will be, what social media will be. It's kind of all spawning from gaming right now. My family thinks that I do Fortnite things. It's like basically they don't really, my parents don't get it, but similar to Winnie, it's like my mom will be like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's 10:30, I'm working. So similar thing. But yeah, that's what I do. I'm very much immersed in the world of gaming.
My sons would think you're the coolest.
Is anyone in the crowd a gamer themselves or have young folks that are gamers in their life? Okay, yes.
So they think you're the coolest too? I think you're the coolest too. Okay, so Winnie, this question is for you. How can retailers and brands collaborate more effectively to ensure that the product offerings and the environment celebrate diversity and inclusivity?
I think this equation starts from the inside, and it actually starts with your employees and ensuring that your employees actually look like your customer. And with Forever 21, we love serving a broad swath of customers and consumers in the United States. We are hyper-focused on the youngest generations because we are Forever 21. We're actually turning 40 this year, and we're giving all of y'all here a little birthday present from Forever 21 to celebrate our 40th. But I think that with that hyper-focus on the youngest customer, it's really interesting. Gen Z is the most diverse, the queerest, the most really just open to everyone and anything. He, she, they demand that you make inclusivity and diversity a part of the language that you speak to them when you meet them at their level. So for me, it's reflecting back on the customer, knowing that the customer is ultimately our boss, And do your employees reflect that? Do they reflect that diversity? Do they reflect a culture of inclusivity where you're not just asserting and saying, but you're actually listening and you're asking questions and you're leading with curiosity? So that, for us, has been just absolutely critical.
Yeah, and I can see the passion that you have, which I think is always step one, right? You can't fake that.
It helps being a diverse woman.
Yeah.
And it helps being looking like the customer.
Right.
And you're almost forced to not only reflect the dialogue that's happening out there, but also make people aware that they need to engage in it. And I think it's such an exciting time for all of us who are stewards of brands and stewards of retail, because we get to engage with a customer, with a culture that doesn't want to be talked at anymore. Right. And it raises the bar for how you engage, what you do, and how you show up.
Okay, next question is for Susanah. Based on your experience, what emerging trends do you anticipate will significantly impact how beauty brands engage with younger demographics, particularly in the context of inclusivity and diversity?
Yeah, so meeting the younger generation where they are, it's very fragmented right now, but what we're seeing is that they are spending a lot of time in gaming platforms. So there is where you can really have an opportunity to be a part of the conversation, join causes that really matter to them. And we're just seeing this explosive trend of virtual expression really dominating gaming platforms, and kind of driven by how you see yourself and how your avatar is really an expression of who you are. So that from the gaming platforms themselves, obviously that's making sure that there's something for everyone to be able to show up as, every single hairstyle, every single skin tone. And I'm just seeing that, for Gen Z, that matters more to them almost than their IRL expression. 56% of Gen Z say they actually care more about who they are virtually than IRL. And on the topic of just like diversity and being able to express yourself freely, GLAAD recently actually just came out too with some research that 66% of LGBTQ plus gamers actually feel more comfortable expressing who they are in gaming platforms. So I think over time, brands are going to have a really awesome opportunity to intersect and join that conversation, and make sure that they're offering players and kind of this next generation ways to really show up as themselves and show up as themselves freely and who they are. So it's definitely something that we're keeping a close eye on and helping educate brands and retailers to join that conversation, join the space as well.
Beautiful. So next question is for Lisa, and speaking of retailers, asking for a friend and also asking for myself, what does it take for a new brand, especially a diverse brand, to get into JCPenney?
Yeah, I think this has been answered quite often throughout this conference, but I think you have to have a unique brand story, a point of difference. You have to be passionate about it. And it has to be somewhat of a white space because there's so many brands to choose from. I also feel like this is a great example, Shades by Shan. If you have not talked to Shan and Erica, please do, because their passion exudes everything. And when you hear their story, it's not just about product, it's about impacting their community. They started a Mama Berries charity that's for single parents, and just their whole, it's a whole 360 approach. And I think that's really what it's all about. We're here as retailers to help in the other processes, making sure your packaging speaks to the consumer. Also understand that it's such a big piece of it, because when you're amongst a plethora of other brands, it's almost like your packaging has to be your silent consultant, because there's not going to be a consultant always there for you, especially in an open cell environment. What grabs that consumer to walk up to that product and think, oh my goodness, I want to know what this is all about. Make sure your branding is the top. There's not a lot of text on there. I think The Ordinary does a great job because it says what it is. This hyaluronic acid, I think, was quite brilliant of them, right? And so making sure all those pieces are together. And then also understanding as a retailer, because we have so many brands, we can't do all the heavy lifting. You have to come to the table to understand what kind of marketing you want to put forth too, and also understanding all the business implications that come along with it. Understanding that your POs, if you don't send your POs exactly how it's written, you're going to get chargebacks. We're an open cell environment, but also we love to have testers so your customers can actually feel, touch, and experience your product. So understanding if you get an opening order, about a third of that order is going to be charged back to you for testers. But if you don't understand all those business implications and do your research, that could really, be the demise of your company. So, but we're here to help you. But definitely, this is the best thing that you could have, is being in environment that you're in right now, being able to network, because your network is definitely your net worth. And definitely talk to your other cohorts that are in this business and entrepreneurship together.
Yeah, and I have noticed that, especially, yesterday I did some more chatting with the group, but everybody was so willing to share contacts and share resources. So if you're not already, like you said, networking and speaking with your peers and really introducing yourself, you should absolutely do that. So that's a great tip. Next question is for all three of you. As leaders, all in your respective fields, how do you foster a culture within your organizations that prioritizes inclusivity and not just external initiatives, but just internally in between your teams?
I can start. I think, one of the reasons I joined JCPenney's is the purpose of the company really spoke to me personally. Our purpose is to celebrate and serve America's diverse working families. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is speaking right to me. But I challenge my teams, and all my teams, whether it's the merchant side, the experience side, the salon side, to look around the table. If your people aren't reflecting our customers, which are very diverse, you need to be very intentional on your hiring the next steps, right? Because we have to be diverse, because this is where our consumer lives. I also think, for us, because I have the salon side as well, when we talk about diversity, we also want to be known as the Textured Authority. And so part of the initiatives that we're bringing forth right now too is really supporting the Crown Act. And so how this came about is, I talked about my son who's in med school here, but while he was interviewing to get into med school, it's so difficult. And he looked at me with those big brown eyes and said, "Mom, do you think I have to cut my hair?" Because we're still in this society where we think we have to fit into this European beauty. And I looked at him, I said, "Absolutely not." I said, if they don't accept you because of how God made you, they don't deserve you anyways. And so he didn't cut his hair. He got into a great med school. And that's why, I thought to myself, let me bring it to the company. Let's be crown champions. It's 2024. How are we talking about discrimination of textured hair today? Today, right? In only 24 states out of 50 have passed this law where you cannot discriminate against textured hair. So now we're on the forefront of inviting senators and representatives into JCPenney's and letting them know not just about our customers and our communities that we're serving, but our own associates that have so many stories to share with them, to say this is why it's so important, not just for our customers, but for me personally. And so we're proud sponsors of that. I was just invited to New Orleans. There's a platform that all the senators will be there, and we're going to try to pass this act where we get all 50 states on board in one swoop. Right now, we're just doing state by state, but I think this is so important. So when our associates see that we truly believe in everything that we do, and we're living into the value and purpose that we believe in, I think that's where we're winning.
I'm so proud of you, Lisa. Oh my God.
Internally, for me, that means just making sure, leading by example, one, that every voice, every face feels empowered, safe, psychologically safe to be themselves, to share their story, and to be heard and respected. I also think, with the gaming space, this being so new, I'm so reliant on the folks that I work with internally to make sure that we are doing it right, we are integrating brands right, that we aren't just like rainbow washing or doing all these little tropes and falling for, you know, sort of like cheap ways to enter the space and not really being intentional about what we're doing. So I'm extremely reliant on diverse viewpoints, perspectives to make sure that we are bringing to market and, you know, feeling empowered that brands are doing it right when they are entering these spaces, because you're going to get called out if you don't. So I think that's extremely paramount, first and foremost, to anything, any organization's success.
I think Forever 21's super lucky because we were founded in Los Angeles, founded by 2 Korean American immigrants. And so in the corporate HQ, we are a reflection of this beautiful city. And diversity is not just in terms of, you know, ethnicity. It's also in terms of points of view and thought. It's in terms of sexual preference. It's also how you identify. And it guides and moves so much of what we do and what we create. And we're in this really lucky space of creating so many moments between beauty to fashion, in every segment under the sun. We also really tap into the diversity of the network of our store employees. It's 15,000 employees. I'm sure JCPenney's has even more. But even just acknowledging the power of those employees and what they bring back, listening, and I do think it starts from the top a bit, and it starts from leadership. And I will never forget when I joined Forever 21, they asked me to, it was during COVID, I was on camera, there were no employees in the office, and it was a live broadcast of my introduction, and they asked just to talk a little bit about my personal story. And what is key to my personal story is also being an immigrant, being a single working mom, and so many other experiences, having grown up in the Southeast, found myself in Los Angeles. And one of the things that I really stressed was the beauty of Forever 21 is we are a collective of individuals with individual experiences. And that's actually the most democratic statement you can make in terms of diversity. And to show up as yourself, as your real self. And I'll never forget going to a store visit at Miami, and one of the store managers actually showed up as she. And she showed up and she said, I've been waiting to publicly make known to my colleagues at work that I am making this very dramatic transition for what I identify with, and I never had the courage. And just listening to you get on tape, not being able to see anyone or touch anyone, and just tell a little bit of your story allows me to tell my story. And, you know, I'm nothing special, but the power of bringing your story and honestly, a little vulnerability forward is so powerful when it comes to leading teams and organizations and embracing who you as an individual are and allowing them to be themselves.
So again, for Winnie, I have a question for you. What challenges have you faced in making inclusivity a reality within your retail spaces, and how have you overcome them?
One of the big challenges we have, and it's a debate for a lot of retailers of our scale, is actually one that I'm going to speak to right now, which is the range of sizes and the range when it comes to what you identify with in terms of gender. And, you know, this whole notion of size inclusivity and how you show up, and how do we make those calls? And a lot of it for us has been listening to the customer, listening to our fleet, and for me, just asking a lot of consumers that I see, what do you like about this? What would you prefer? What would be different? But also leaning into things like when we did our collaboration with Barney's for Fashion Week this past year, we decided, let's just throw this gender identity out the window and make a unisex collection. Every piece could be on a man or a woman. And truthfully, I see a lot of women shopping our men's, and I see a lot of men shopping women's. And it became this thing of, why do we even have to call it one thing? The same thing goes for beauty. we often think about beauty as strongly identifying as female, when in fact, it identifies across a range of who you identify with in terms of gender. You know, color can be for anyone. Skincare should be for everyone. And so part of that is, again, leaning in, listening, and then also saying, let's try something different. And, you know, we may not get a lot of credit for it, but again, let's engage with the customer. Let's meet them where they are, as opposed to telling them what they should do, think, or buy.
And even if you feel like you're not getting the credit, I think people definitely notice and speak amongst themselves and each other. So I don't think it falls on deaf ears at all.
That's the most powerful form of marketing, so thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Lisa, could you discuss the importance of assortment enhancement in creating a beauty retail environment that is inclusive of all skin types, tones, and preferences?
So what I would say is when you walk into JCPenney Beauty, what you'll see is you'll never see a sea of beige. So I would rather bring in one formula foundation and have the lightest to the deepest than 3 of their top foundations and only bring in a sea of beige. So because we serve and celebrate diverse working families, we want to make sure that everybody feels included, and so you'll see that. So I think that is definitely the biggest point of difference that we have, because we have to make choices. There's only so much space, right? But just making sure that everybody feels included. And even when you look at NPD or Susanah, I'll never be able to get that back in my head. I've been in the business too long. But foundation was down 5% last month. For us, this is the strongest category segment right now because we do offer everything for everybody. And so for us, that's so important, and we're very proud of that.
You should be. Susanah, with your extensive experience at Super Awesome, how do you see beauty brands leveraging gaming and the metaverse platforms to engage with Gen Z and Alpha consumers in a way that champion inclusivity and diversity?
Yeah, so I mentioned virtual expression is so important. So I think that's going to be a trend that's around for a very long time. Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I mean, this gaming platforms, going on Roblox, Fortnite to hang out with your friends, to explore different types of games, to role play. There's so many different modes and reasons why young audiences are so drawn to gaming. So I think it's going to be around for a really long time, and it's almost going to be an evolution of what the internet is. When people say like Web3 and gaming, it's going to be this more immersive, always on intersection of even AR and VR as that starts to unfold. So it's going to be just a place to be, you know, full stop, because it is so important in Gen Alpha and Gen Z's lives. So for brands, that can mean such a multitude of things and different ways to show up for them. So I think it's going to intersect commerce in a really big way coming up. So really linking virtual expression, virtual item sales, and UGC to real life items. And I think Roblox is actually announcing that later this year. We're going to be able to actually dress your avatar and buy the same item IRL. So I just think there's going to be so many more things sort of evolving in the space as time goes on. And brands are going to have to sort of figure out a way to show up there. So whether that's creating, you know, your own stores within these environments, or really showing up from the cause angle to be relevant. You know, Elf Cosmetics is one that just launched within Roblox in the last year, and it's really not about the products at all. It's about really leaning into them being a cruelty-free brand and adopting a pet in Roblox. So it's about kind of meeting this younger generation where they are and getting them aware of your brand, exposure to your brand, so that you hopefully grow up with them, and then preference is top of mind as the years go by. So it's still very early stages, early innings. You know, this is really probably year 3 or 4 of brands taking the space seriously, but it really is commanding a lot of attention, again, because, you know, the younger generations always have dictated trends, the culture for centuries, and now we're really seeing that happening with the proliferation of gaming platforms. So I just think there's going to be so much more brands flocking to this space, more options available for brands too, to kind of approach the space with like crawl, walk, run integrations, whether that's, you know, going into just dipping your toe into just launching some hairstyles or launching some different items, all the way to having your own fully immersive branded world. Actually, Winnie, Forever 21 was in Roblox.
We have been in Roblox, and when we started, everyone asked, how are you going to make money? I said, we're not. We're going to show up, because if you're 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're on Roblox, you can create your own Forever 21 store in Shop City. And then we did crazy things like, oh my goodness, bring Barbie into the metaverse in Roblox. We had a Barbie collection that launched 3 months before the movie. We have a long-term relationship with Barbie. And we said, would you be crazy enough to be there with us? And so for every Barbie item, you could have your avatar wear it in Shop City. You could have it in your Shop City shop. And then you could rock it in real life. And it's amazing. And same question, what are we doing with this? You just get to show up and engage. And it's meaningful. It's meaningful. And to your point, your avatar could be anything. It could be any color, it could be anything. But it's an amazing sense of self-expression. So sometimes I go and just check out who's out here and what are you doing and why?
Totally. And just to like close that point on, how they're expressing themselves, we've seen from our data, 86% of players, if they have the item for their avatar, want the real life one if it were available to them. So there is that complementary effect, and I think as it gets easier over time to actually make purchases in these platforms, it's going to be maybe a whole new channel segment for e-com and online purchase for the future. So very, very cool and exciting.
That's fascinating.
It is.
I could talk about this all day. You're gonna have to deal with me later. And we have to figure out how to get some boob tape on some avatars. Okay, so this is our last question for everybody. So if you could make one prediction about the future of inclusivity in beauty shopping, what would it be and why?
I think my prediction would be that slowly as it's happening, the minority is becoming the majority. I don't even think that we'll have to talk about inclusivity because it's going to become the norm. And I really feel like our young generation, they're going to bring so much to the table because it's who they are and what they believe in, whether it's sustainability, acceptance, all of those pieces rolled in one. So I'm like so proud of like my kids and the younger generation that are growing up because they have that sense of just accepting people who, however God made them. And I think it's going to be so empowering.
I love that, Lisa. And I have to say, watching my daughter, so she's 18, she started watching tutorials on color and doing my face when she was 8 or 9. And for her, there's 50 Shades of Gray. I think now it's going to be 50 Shades of Brown, right, in this country. And it's different tonalities, which is super exciting. And that acceptance, right, as opposed to being an ethnicity or identifying with just this. You can just be a range of things, which I think is super exciting. I also noticed with her, she loves the underdog and the new brand. If you got a new brand and you are an underdog and you got a story to tell, she's going to buy it and try it. And so I would say name that, claim that, and get it out there, because this new generation doesn't want what's established, and they are willing to try, which is so cool. So that would be the future of beauty. Try it, name it, claim it, 50 Shades of Brown.
And I think the generations that you're talking about are also working their way up and holding people in power and bigger brands to a certain, right? They're making them more aware, and they're making them stay true to a responsibility that they should have all along. But yeah.
They are holding brands to account, holding them to a higher standard. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach, just more on the emerging technology. I think no one mentioned AI. I thought maybe one of you two were going to bring that up. I just think what we're seeing with generative AI and personalization, back to what Winnie was saying, like the range of different vectors now that can go into personalization, whether that's looking for the right product, looking for the right brand. I think that's a really exciting space to see. And then of course, just to hammer home, everything I've been saying is gonna be that virtual to IRL. I just think there's still a link there that we're kind of massaging out right now and seeing how that connection can continue to unfold. But for younger generations, it is so important to them, as I mentioned. They care more about virtual representation of who they are than IRL, which is kind of crazy. So just staying true to that and watching that space unfold, I think it's gonna be a really big impact on retail decisions and purchase decisions for years to come, so.
I wasn't told if I could take crowd questions, but nobody's dragging us off the stage yet. And these women are so incredible. So if anybody has, yes. Go ahead and project.
You know, I think everybody craves that human touch, right? And I think we all love experiences, whether we go to dinner or go on a trip. It's the same thing with beauty. So I think we can investigate it online, but we have the sensorial, I think we all love to be able to touch and feel. So bricks will never go away. And I think, you know, before people were like, oh, I don't know, the mall might be dead. No, it will never go away because everybody still wants that human touch and be able to experience the product. So
I just remember during COVID, my dream was to just go to TJ Maxx and smell a candle again. Going to the sensorial, right? And just throw on some perfume. Beauty has been so critical to getting people back in stores. It is the #1. I mean, I would say the recovery, when you look at a Sephora, I mean, you just wanted to get into Sephora Ulta so fast, right? And what is so interesting about Gen Z, they like physical shopping. You know, they can buy anything digitally and they buy a whole size run and then return the rest. But even if they're returning, they're gonna go to a store. And so showing up, and I do think one of the big things, Lisa, that you had mentioned is how do you show up in that store, because so much of it is self-serve these days, and how do you allow the customer to test and literally engage in the product is gonna be so critical for everyone to figure out.
Also, is anyone reading these headlines about Gen Alpha, like storming Sephora and like being all up in the testers and wanting to play with makeup and earlier and earlier they're getting into makeup. So I think there's a lot being driven by younger generations too on just retail is not dead. IRL shopping experience is not dead. There's just more options now than ever before and consumers want more. More is more.
And literally, we invite everybody, regardless of your age, within our space. So come on in.
Love it.
We too. We might as well be forever 51 if I'm truth be told, right? So, and we're giving y'all all a gift to make that happen. But one thing I would ask you as stewards of fabulous, you know, up and coming beauty is just also, I do think there's a responsibility as Gen Alpha is engaged in skincare, is just making sure that, you know, what's young, what's old, and just making sure that we're protecting them as well. And how do we do all of that responsibly?
Anybody else? There's a mic over here. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for being here. I am incredibly inspired. And again, I am so honored to be here with you all. So thank you all.
Thank you all. Please enjoy a